Hi everyone, welcome to the Girls Biology Night, which is the second Girls Science Night in the series. This event is hosted by the Helyx Initiative and CCA She's the First. If you'd like to learn more about the Helyx Initiative, our website is helyxscience.org. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in chat. Okay, so before we begin, you can sign up for the other Girls Science Nights in the series at bit.ly/Girls Science Night. We have a variety of topics for Girls Science Nights, including computer science, engineering, neuroscience, and another biology one. So now let's meet our 5 amazing speakers. Dr. Susan Ackerman,
Our first speaker is Professor Ackerman, the Stephen Kuffler Professor of Biology and a professor in neurobiology and cellular and molecular medicine at UCSD. She is also a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences and the National Academy of Sciences.
Our second speaker today is Celine Kong. Celine Kong is a PhD candidate at MD Anderson UT Health Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences.
Our third speaker is Savannah Shields. She recently graduated from USD and has experience in undergraduate research. She currently works in a biotech company.
Our fourth speaker today is Anna Guo. Anna Guo is an incoming computational biology student at UCLA. She is also an Alzheimer's disease research intern.
And lastly, we have Dr. Sue Lowry, who is the department chair in biology at USD. She is a founding and board member of BeWise and has a PhD in marine biology at Scripps Institution of Oceanography.
So now let's go ahead and begin the Girls Biology Night.
Hi, girls. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want me to go ahead? This is Sue Ackerman.
So our next speaker is Celine Kong. So let's go ahead and give her a big welcome.
Hi guys. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, and hopefully you guys can see it. Give me a second. Okay, can everybody see this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, hi guys. I'm Celine. I am currently a PhD student, so I'm really thankful and really honored that Jessica and Sarah and Andrew actually reached out and invited me to this event, which I think is really cool. So just a really small snippet about me. I'm currently a third-year PhD candidate at MD Anderson Graduate School, and I am affiliated with the Genetics and Epigenetics program within MD Anderson. So if you guys have any questions about the graduate school, I'll be really happy to answer you guys. So a little bit about the project that I'm working on for my thesis. I'm actually using single cell RNA sequencing to explore different signaling pathways that are responsible for the regulation of cell populations in the lung after injury. So for the purposes of this event, I figured, I would talk to you guys a little bit about how I got to where I am, the experiences I went through and things I've learned and what I found useful to sort of got me to where I am today. So stop me anytime if you guys have any questions, or just ask them in the chat box if you prefer. So really, what started things for me was my journey at my undergraduate institution. So I went to a really small liberal arts college called Queen's University of Charlotte in North Carolina, where I majored in biology. And I did a senior research capstone project focusing on the toxicity of ionic liquids in E. coli. And at Queens, I had a research capstone advisor who's here, Dr. Scott Weir. He was a phenomenal advisor to me. He really influenced me in a lot of my decisions throughout college. And because of him, I was actually able to participate in a collaborative research project while I was there. And that's really my research capstone. We collaborated with a chemistry professor, Dr. Sosha, on his synthesis of ionic liquids and our toxicity testing of his products on E. coli. So really my key key lesson from undergraduate for me in terms of research is that it's really important for us to have a really good research advisor. And by that, I mean someone who, introduce you to new opportunities, someone who's able to open up or help you open up opportunities for collaborations in different topics. My major was biology, but I was able to learn a little bit about biochemistry from my research capstone working with ionic liquids. And also to have an advisor who sort of supports you to explore your, scientific curiosity, your scientific interests, maybe outside of what the professor's interest in. He's also someone who's open to accepting your research interests as well. And also, most importantly, for me, I think it was so important to have an advisor that really pushed me and challenged me outside of my comfort zone. And with that, what I mean is, Queens is a really small liberal arts college. So when I was there wasn't a lot of cutting edge research going on at the university, but there are so many summer research programs that are extremely amazing across the nation. And so Dr. Weir really sort of pushed me to open myself up to not only apply to those, but actually, participate in them for my duration in college. And to think about it is, as you guys are in college, there's a time between college and graduation, or even high school and graduation for that matter. And so during that time, you have certain windows within the year where you have more of a free time, especially in the summer, right? And there's so many opportunities out there in terms of the STEM field, whether it's summer research internships or summer courses that you guys can take, or even those academic summer camps that you guys can participate in. And so that was really a big thing for me. And so during the last 2 years of my undergraduate, I decided to really pursue and, broaden my horizon a little bit in terms of research experiences. And so I participated in 2 summer internships during my junior and senior year of college. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that and show you guys what kind of experiences it is and what these kinds of internships is like. So the first internship program I participated in is at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and it's called the Summer Undergraduate Research Program. So it's just a 10-week program in the summer where you're able to participate in laboratory research, and they have wet lab research, they have dry lab research, they have clinical research. So really, there's a broad field of research if whatever you're interested in, right? There's physics, there's mathematics, there's computational. So, and these programs really help hone in your skills, because all you do for the full 10 weeks is research, presentation skills, like elevator competition skills, learning how to read, interpret, and understand scientific articles and be able to process the knowledge that you learn there. So for me, this first experience outside of my college was phenomenal. I was able to really participate on a project that looked at circulating cell-free DNA, which is kind of what they're looking at today in terms of liquid biopsies for tumors or certain diseases. So there are really, really cool research projects that you guys can participate in if you're interested in doing these summer research programs. So because I absolutely loved my first experience during these summer internships, I decided for my final year of undergrad, I wanted to do one more. And so I then switched to participating in the UT Health CPRIT summer internship. So this program is tailored for cancer prevention research. That's what the CPRIT grant is for in Texas. And so this one's also another 10-week program that you can participate in, and they have a wide range of cancer research from computational to physics to chemistry related cancer research and biology as well. And so, I was really able to participate in very, very cutting edge research during these internships. And some of the key lessons that I was able to learn from it is, learning how to present a poster, how to design elevator speech for competitions or presentations, how to be able to process scientific articles, how to learn new techniques and work closely with postdocs in the lab, learning their work ethic and, their thought process, and really learning from them, how to think about scientific questions, how to ask scientific questions, and how to design experiments to answer them. And so from all these experiences in between my college years, I really was able to learn a lot in terms of science and broaden my scientific knowledge so much just within these, 2 different 10-week experiences. And so I took these experiences with me as I finished up the rest of my college and prepared for the road ahead. So for me, once I graduated college, the question really was, okay, I know I love science, I know I love biology, but where do I go from here? Do I go to grad school, get a master's or PhD, or do I go to a professional school, MD or DO or dentistry, whichever professional school you're interested in. But at this point in my life, it's really crucial because for me, I wanted to make sure I made the right decision. So I really took some time to reflect on, my personality, my personal interests, my experiences, what really drives me on the inside. And ultimately, I chose graduate school because my scientific curiosity is really what drives me. I absolutely love being able to ask scientific questions, being able to think about them and try to design experiments to answer them. That's incredibly fascinating to me. So that's how I ended up to where I am today, which is in the genetics and epigenetics program at MD Anderson and studying, lung injury using sequencing. So this is just a little, snippet of how I started and where I am today, giving you guys a little bit of insight to the experiences I've had, my thought process, and hopefully, can inspire you guys or maybe just help you guys think about things that you want in terms of your career or your personal interests moving forward from high school or college, wherever you are in life. But before I sort of wrap up my talk today, I really do want to give a small plug to bioinformatics because I think it is such a crucial skill today in this day and age to be able to code and learn and understand bioinformatics and apply it. It's so broad in so many different fields, whether it's genomics or transcriptomics, diseases. There are so many applications to bioinformatics. And that's another reason why I think the Helyx Initiative is fantastic. They provide so many different events and camps, I guess, that opens people up to opportunities to learn these things. And so I want to thank the initiative for inviting me to talk. And I hope that my talks can help you guys somehow. And if you guys have any questions about anything, whether it's research internship or graduate school, please feel free to ask and I'll be happy to answer any of the questions you have. Thank you. Okay, so that's a really good question, actually. So I chose to omit a master's degree, and I went straight to graduate school from my bachelor's. So from my experience without a master's degree, it can be challenging if you go straight from bachelor's to PhD if you don't have solid research experience. And by solid, I mean, actually completing sort of a research project by yourself, going through the highs and lows of completing a research project, the obstacles and challenges. Um, but because I had a capstone project at school and then I had 2 extra summer internships, I felt like I was okay to omit a master's. So I didn't actually go for a master's program. I went straight from bachelor's to PhD, and it's definitely been challenging going through grad school. But I think it would be a lot more challenging for someone who has very minimal research experience in their bachelor's and skipping a master's and going straight to PhD. It's not doable, but I think it would be challenging if you skip a master's. But if you did have a master's, I think it would be a lot smoother in graduate school. Some of my friends in grad school have masters, and they are so much more quick, and they're so much more they can handle the pressure and the stress and the complexities of research much better because they've been through it in their masters. Does that answer your question? Yes, so there are a lot of summer internship programs out there that are specific for high schoolers too. If I'm not mistaken, I think there is I'm not sure if it's a biotech company or a sequencing platform company. It's about sequencing that they have a program specific for high schoolers. I have a list of summer internship programs that I compiled over the years for myself to apply. So if any of you are interested, I can just reach out to me over email and I can send you that. But there's definitely internships out there specific for high schoolers. So that would be awesome if you're interested in that. If there are no more questions, I will pass it on to the next person presenting.
Okay, thank you so much.
We have time for one
Oh,
more.
did you get another question?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's one more question.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Where did I find internships as an undergrad? Okay, so a lot of it is my best friend Google, to be honest. Um, Definitely a lot of Googling, but also most colleges. I know my college has an advisor specific for like sort of externships. So any experiences you have outside of college is through that advisor. So those advisors usually have a list of programs that students can participate in. So if your school has one of those, maybe meet with that advisor. But if not, definitely reach out to maybe senior students who have experiences or Googling. And my research advisor in college actually has some connections with other universities. And so he's the one who brought up to me the possibility of participating in the summer research internship. So I think professors are a really good resource too, outside of just, the externship advisor, your actual undergraduate advisor, or even, just Google things that you're interested in. If you're interested in a computational internship, you can just Google it. I know I Googled cancer internship, so that's something that's really helpful. So I hope, maybe either Googling or your school might have an externship advisor that can help you out with that. But if you want a list, just email me. I have one somewhere. No problem. How many percent is women in my department? So my cohort of incoming graduate students is, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's mostly women. I'll say that. It's mostly women for my cohort. And I know that the incoming cohort this year, I think there's only 2 guys and everyone else is women. So there are a lot of women in graduate school, a lot. Was I involved with research? No. So that's I was not involved with research in high school. Um, Mostly because I was really not exposed to it as a high schooler. So if I were you guys right now in high school, I would have loved to participate in research, but I was just never exposed to it in high school, and so I never did any high school internships or research. How did you find what you really want? Okay, that's a really good question. How do you sort of navigate what you want to learn in biology? I think for me, being at a liberal arts college gave me the opportunity to do that. Because for my college, as a biology major, we not only take classes like cellular and molecular biology or cell biology, we had to take classes like marine biology or animal biology or immunology. So, sort of at my college, I was sort of exposed to these different fields right from freshman year. So freshman year, we had to take all of these intro biology courses that touch on different fields. And so I was able to be exposed to that, and I learned from that I really like more molecular cell biology type of science. And so that's how I sort of honed in my research interests. Most of the summer internships I participated in were also more about, molecular biology or genetics, just things I'm curious about, things I'm interested in. But because science and biology is such a big field, I think sometimes it might be hard to find where you fit in. But a good thing to maybe think about is, if you're interested, maybe read up about the different fields, or if there are, I mean, because of COVID, there are so many conferences or so many events now online. So maybe participate in those and hear about the different topics in science, topics in biology, and find which one piques your interest. I think that's kind of how you navigate the world of anything, really. But with biology, that's probably the best option, to really find a way to find out what you really like and go from there. And sometimes it might be trial and error, right? You might think you like genetics, but if you do some genetics research or if you read about genetics and it does not appeal to you, that might also be a way to find out if you like it or not. Yes, so the summer research internships are highly competitive. They're very, very competitive. I know specifically the MD Anderson ones are extremely competitive. And the CPRIT is very selective and competitive. So from what I remember, the applicants range from 300 to 500, and they only take maybe 10 to 20 students each time. So they're very competitive. But if you have a really good recommendation letter, you have a really good, strong personal statement, a good resume, and you have sort of some experience, at least whether it's high school or freshman year college, that would definitely help. I think that's one of the reasons why I waited until junior year to apply for my first one, so that I have compiled up some research experience. Because part of their requirement is that you should have some research experience, because these programs are catered to students who already know that they want to be in the STEM field, students who know that they are interested in research, or even like medical school. So they would prefer students with some experience to some extent. But it's definitely doable. There are a lot of people I've met there who are from small colleges, community colleges. It's open across the nation, and everyone, if you have experiences, you have a fair shot. What is the best way? From my experience, the best way, one, is to have a research advisor. So if you have a I don't know about other colleges, but my college requires every student in biology to do a capstone project. So in order to do a capstone project, you are assigned essentially to a professor within the biology department as your advisor. So the advisor might have multiple students, but you still have a research advisor. So that would be your primary source, I think, for making having a good relationship, scientific relationship with them, and really be able to learn from them and have them teach you their experiences. And if they have connections with other programs or other professors in different institutions, that might help you get a summer internship there. So another thing I didn't bring up is summer internships. You don't have to go through a summer program. If you somehow just emailed a professor from a different institution and say, hey, I'm interested in your lab. I was wondering if you would be open to having a summer volunteer or a summer intern working in your lab. I'd be happy to participate in that. That's definitely worked before too. It happens all the time. So you don't always have to go through an actual summer internship program. If you're interested in a particular professor's research, just maybe shoot them an email and reach out to them and see if they're open to having you in their lab.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Celine, for your great advice on internships and all of that stuff. So now I think it's time for our next speaker.
Yeah, our next speaker is Savannah Shields, so let's welcome her.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, cool. Well, hello. My name is Savannah. I just graduated from USD where I studied biology and chemistry. So I got a biology major and a chemistry minor. And at USD, I had a really awesome experience. I was exposed to so many great classes and opportunities. I played Division I softball there, so I learned how to balance a bunch of craziness at once. I met some really incredible people, so classmates, teammates, professors, advisors, all of that. And I'm just really thankful for my time there because I was able to spend that time figuring out my passion and then, how to go with it from there. So currently I just graduated, right? So I currently work for a biotech company here in San Diego. It's called Inscripta. And really I couldn't have pictured a more perfect position for my first job out of college. It's just been a really supportive work environment that really promotes like learning, growing, and just being exposed to a lot of different things. So that's been a pretty big deal. That was something I was really looking for, was somewhere where I could learn and grow and continue and not be like kind of stuck in the same place. So it's been a really great experience so far. So how did I get here? Great question. Still trying to figure that out. I was trying to think of like a moment or a time or something where the time I fell in love with science or biology or whatever it was, one of those stories that's inspiring to others. But I don't think I have a story quite like that. Thinking back, science was almost like assumed that I would go into that sort of field. And I don't really know why. I don't have any family that's involved in science. We don't have any friends who we know either, anything like that. But somehow it was just kind of a given for me from a young age to pursue, a career in science. I think it was just the fact that with science, you can kind of go anywhere and answer a lot of really important questions. And the good thing about science is if there isn't an answer, you can go find it. And I really liked that. I ask a lot of questions. I think about a lot of things. So science seemed like the perfect fit for my whole life. So as I grew and I learned more and more, I came to just really love the idea of science and biology specifically. So going into college, I was very set on biology. I had this image of myself like curing diseases in a lab in a basement of a hospital for some reason. That was like my career dream. It's just what I imagined myself doing. Not sure why I was in a basement, but it's fine. So I took all those introductory bio and chemistry classes. They were all great. I loved it. I was right on track to becoming the basement scientist dream. It was awesome. But so in college, obviously you have more freedom in choosing your classes than you do in high school. But there are still classes that you have to take. And at USD, where I went, they required a lot of classes that I honestly probably would not have taken if I gotten to choose, because of just the image that I had of the scientist I wanted to be. I am so thankful that I had to take those classes and I didn't get to choose all of them. I am so thankful because in those classes, I learned a lot about things that I had never even thought about. And they made me think beyond this image of the scientist that I had in my mind, and really see that science is literally everywhere. I can't walk down the street or the beach or whatever without stopping and looking at flowers and leaves and thinking about photosynthesis. And I look at bugs and think about physiology and anatomy. I can't look at ocean waves without thinking about how they move and, you know, what effects that has downstream. And, you know, there are these simple things that a lot of people don't notice. And because I was exposed to all of these interesting classes, now I think about it a little bit more. I'm like that annoying friend that points out everything random biology facts that nobody really asked to hear. But, you know, I'm proud of it, love it. Because, you know, we're surrounded by science and it's beautiful. And to me, that's very powerful. And that appreciation that I've gained came from taking that wide range of classes. And I think that really made me a better scientist, even if not all of those classes were, you know, directly applicable to the type of career that I wanted to pursue. So really having that open mind and learning a lot of different things, I think, was really important for me, and finding, you know, what I was passionate about and where I wanted to go. So one of my favorite required classes that I had to take was ecology. So going in, I wasn't overly excited. You know, I kind of thought the class would be a little boring, maybe simple, but my mind changed very quickly. And what really got me excited was my professor, Dr. Fleming Davies, who ended up being my research advisor later. And she shared her research with our class, of course. And, you know, whenever she talked about it, she got so excited. She lit up. It was just so passionate, and you could feel it in the way that she talked. And that was so exciting. Like I just really wanted to be a part of something that made me feel like that. Like I wanted to talk about what I was doing with that kind of passion. So that was very exciting. And her research specifically was in a field of disease ecology, which is something I feel like a lot of people don't know about. It's a smaller, kind of newer sort of thing. But disease ecology is the study of host pathogen interactions on a population level. So a host being something that gets infected with a disease, and then a pathogen obviously being, you know, the disease itself, whether that's a bacteria or virus or that sort of thing. So yeah, disease ecology, host pathogen interactions, which are obviously very important and super interesting. I've always been a big fan of diseases, love them, think they're super cool. So that caught my attention right away. So, you know, I talked to Dr. Fleming Davies, joined her lab soon after, and really had a really great research experience in my undergraduate years. So our lab studied the host pathogen interaction of a certain caterpillar species. It's called the Gulf fritillary, very cool looking caterpillars, like orange and blue, really beautiful butterflies, and this pretty cool virus that's actually pretty gross that infects these caterpillars, and it's called NPV, which was what I was especially interested in. So with this system in mind, I was able to develop my own project. At this point, I was pretty interested in molecular biology and those sort of techniques that went along with that, just from other classes I took and other experiences that I had. I really liked that sort of field. So with that in mind, and then our research lab and that system that we were using, I really wanted to do this big investigation of viral DNA and genetic variation, in particularly important genes of this virus, and where that variation occurs in different strains from different geographic locations. So really, I wanted to analyze a bunch of DNA sequences. And I am very grateful that I was given a lot of freedom and a lot of support along this way. So our lab was a disease ecology lab. So no one had ever done a lot of molecular biology work with this particular virus before, at least in our lab. And I was kind of given that freedom to figure it all out. which of course came with a lot of struggles, but I'm very grateful for those because they were great learning experiences. And of course I had my lab mates and my advisor and other professors that I ran to for help. But it felt really great to be independent and in control, and like I was doing what I wanted to be doing. It was powerful. It was like I had real skills that I had learned. You know, you learn all of these things in classes, but now I was using them. I was able to translate them into, you know, a different setting. That was a very cool feeling. And that feeling has never really gone away. So with my research, I presented it a few different times to various groups of people in different settings. And I'm currently working on writing up the manuscript for it that will hopefully become published. And I'm also working on a poster to present at a conference soon. So it's been a really exciting journey, a lot of ups and downs, but it's been a very, very positive experience. So with that, my advice to any of you who I would assume might be interested in looking into research opportunities as a college student, or maybe even before that, just know that you're most powerful where you're passionate, and own that and develop it and enjoy the whole experience. So in addition to my research during my undergraduate years, I also spent 2 summers as an intern in a biotech company here in San Diego. And that was also a very great experience. And it's almost like the alternative career path to academia and research and that sort of thing. But you do a lot of the same things. You need a lot of the same skills, a lot of the same background, but you just apply it differently. So for example, in my lab work, I was doing molecular biology, right? So I was extracting DNA, running PCRs, gels, that sort of thing. And I was doing the same thing at the biotech company that I was working for. So very similar work, but instead of doing it for my research purposes, it was to develop molecular diagnostic tests for various human diseases, which was a pretty cool application and very, very interesting and obviously super important. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm currently working for a biotech company here in San Diego, so I clearly took a liking to that path, but also as well as the research path. I like them both. But the company that I work for now is focused on digital genome engineering, which is honestly amazing. Really incredible minds behind all of that. It's fascinating. But biotech in general is a really cool environment. It's constantly changing, it's new and fast, but all the concepts are the same solid concepts you learn in school. It's exciting, the type of technology that's out there already, and all of that that's yet to be discovered and developed, and ultimately the impacts that that can have on our society as a whole. I mean, if we take our current situation right now with the whole, coronavirus pandemic, a lot of biotech companies have switched over to, making molecular diagnostic tests, developing vaccines, doing all of that. Like, that is really important, really fast new developments that are happening very, very quickly. So right now at my job, I am a lab technician. So not every task that I do is incredibly glamorous. I have to do the things like clean materials in the lab, organize things, label things, that sort of work. But, when I'm doing those tasks, although sometimes they're simple and, maybe not the most exciting thing, I usually, end up passing the time by just thinking about what can become of the technology that I'm helping to make. Even though I'm not the mastermind behind it all, like, it's really cool to be a part of that sort of environment. And that to me is worth all of the pieces that I have to wash and autoclave and label and do whatever else. Of course, I don't plan on being a lab tech forever. I do plan to pursue higher education, hopefully in the future, and, move my way up. But you have to start somewhere, and being excited about the field that you're in is a great place to start. I'm very fortunate to be in San Diego, and all of you are too, because there are so many opportunities out there. I mean, the number of biotech companies alone is incredible, and the wide range of technology that they're creating and developing, you know, as we speak, or it's just incredible. It's the perfect place to be if you're really interested in that sort of technology. So those have been my experiences so far. The last kind of point I wanted to make was, you know, about being a female specifically in STEM and now in the biotech world. I've worked alongside a lot of other female scientists. So, you know, there's a lot of females out there in the field. Obviously, there's people who stereotype and make improper judgments, and you can't control their initial thoughts of you. But what you can control is, you know, how they change their thoughts about you. And what I mean by that is you can become so good that they can't help but to notice you and respect you. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are so good, they have to. You know, be so good that they change their mind on you, and, you know, be so good that they end up changing their mind about, you know, the next female that walks in the door or is applying for a job or something like that. It doesn't have to be this big intimidating thing, and it doesn't have to be some impossible challenge. It can be a really great opportunity. So that's how I like to look at it. That's how I felt, you know, that's how I tried to keep my mind open when I was applying for jobs and doing that whole thing, is this can be a really great opportunity. So with that, my advice to all of you is to find what makes you excited, you know, what lights you up, what is your passion, and follow it. And that takes a lot of time, you know, it takes trial and error, figuring things out, but be patient, trust yourself. And don't let anyone or anyone's thoughts on you get in your way. You know, you're the only one who knows yourself and what you like, and just trust that and own that, and, you know, own the power that you have with that. So yeah, that's been my experience. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, I can try to answer those to the best of my ability. Yeah, but yeah, thanks for your time, you guys.
Thank you so much, Savannah, for your speech. It was really enjoyable.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think there's a question.
Oh, yes. Okay. Any unconventional non-STEM classes that helped you pursue a career in biotech? You know, most of them were probably STEM related. You know, I took a lot of classes that were directly helpful for what I was doing for the biotech company that I interned for, which is how I ultimately made the decision to continue in the biotech field. So mostly STEM classes. I mostly took STEM classes. But, you know, the other STEM classes that maybe weren't directly applicable to biotech, you know, something, you know, where you learn about plants and things like that. Those were important too, because, you know, it helps you figure out what you are truly interested, you know, what you maybe don't want to do as your career, you know, what you enjoy learning about and all of that, but maybe what is not directly applicable to what you want to continue. So taking other classes are also good for, you know, saying what you maybe don't want to be learning about for the rest of your life. And, you know, you learn skills, and in those sort of classes and labs that do become applicable. So it's kind of a balance between, you know, the information that you want to take moving forward. Let's see. Is your work related to what you have learned from school a lot? Yes, it is. I learned a lot in school, which is good, I guess. A lot that has been most helpful has been what I've learned from lab classes, because it's been, you know, hands-on learning. There's definitely a difference between what you hear in lecture and then what you physically do in the lab. So I'm very thankful for the lab classes that I've had, especially because they've been so hands-on and you get a feel for it. So a lot of those labs have really been helpful for what I've been doing in biotech. Let's see, why did you decide to go to USD? What did I look for in college? Great question. I really liked USD first because I'm from Arizona, so San Diego is wonderful in so many ways. But I really liked that it was so small, because it's very personal. You know, you're in very small classes, you're able to interact and have really great relationships with your professors, and you get to know them and they get to know you, and you're able to, you know, make those connections and build those relationships. So I really liked the smallness of USD, and I think that really helped in developing a really great experience for me. Okay, what advice do you have for finding internships in college? Connections are very important. So, you know, professors help a lot with that. If you have a really good relationship with your professor, they will connect you with other people who maybe are researching or working for a company or something like that that you are really interested in. You know, they set up those connections. So use your professors as great resources. I personally used like a connection of a connection to connect me to the first biotech company that I worked for, which was really great. But you have to make those initial connections. You know, people have to learn to trust you. You have to share what you're interested in. And that's what gets you going. Those connections are super important because, I mean, you could have the best grades in the world and the best resume in the world, but if you never reach out or connect with those people or anything like that, it doesn't matter. You need that combination. So those connections are very powerful.
Okay, thank you, Savannah. Oh, I guess there's another question.
How were you able to make connections in college? Professors were super important for that. My research advisor, because, you know, she came to know me very well and what I was interested in and what I was looking for. I just recently made a LinkedIn account. I didn't have one of those before, but that was very efficient. I don't know. I think younger and younger people are now hopping on some form of social media to make those connections. So, you know, that type of thing has really been helpful. It's easy and accessible. So yeah, I would say professors, other professionals that you may know, and, you know, a LinkedIn account isn't a bad idea.
All right, thank you for your speech, and thank you for answering questions. Let's introduce our next speaker.
Our next speaker is Anna Guo, so let's give her a big welcome.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. I will share some slides. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, it's loaded. So today I'll just be talking a little bit about my journey and how I found my passion in biology, and also just some advice and tips on how you can too. So just a little bit about me. I'm an incoming student at UCLA, majoring in computational and systems biology. I'm from San Francisco, California, and last summer I interned at UCSB and conducted research on Alzheimer's disease. I really enjoy giving back to the community. During high school, I organized multiple events to increase STEM education, and I just really enjoy being able to spread STEM and biology and all these things to new people. And currently, I'm a student at a summer program hosted by Google called the Computer Science Summer Institute. So there isn't like a specific aha moment where I just knew that I wanted to pursue biology, but I remember like since I was young, I really enjoyed just like looking at animals and plants, and I remember my parents bringing me to various museums and me just being fascinated with like monkeys or with like the turtles. I just like really enjoyed that as like a little girl. So you can see on the left, that was one of like my favorite memories. We went to like a place called Crab Cove, and there we were like flipping over rocks and looking for crabs, and I was just so excited to see all of them and get them all in my hands. So that was kind of, I guess, how I first got interested in biology somehow. And also my dad's a biomedical researcher at Genentech, which is a biotech company at in South San Francisco. So I've been fortunate enough, like just since I was young, like randomly, sometimes he would take me to like his lab, and I would just like see the lab and all that stuff. Like it was intimidating as a little kid, and I'm pretty sure I didn't really catch on to what was happening, but that really helped me like get exposed to what it was like in the beginning. And they were like, you bring your kid to work day, like days every year that I would attend, and that's kind of how I first got exposed to the field. So during middle school and elementary school, I really enjoyed my science classes, but high school is really where I found my interest in biology. So my school had a biotechnology pathways program where there was a series of classes where in a lab that we have in school, where we work in groups and conduct labs and experiments and work together to really get that hands-on experience. And we learn like different techniques that are used in biotech today. So that experience was really great because it wasn't in a classroom, like typical classroom setting. And I got to really explore my interests and apply my biology knowledge to like real life experiments. So on the left, you can see that's when we were growing pollen tubes. So we were like examining them under the microscope. And the middle picture is African violet. So in our biotech class, we actually cloned some African violets by taking small chunks from the middle of the leaves and culturing that tissue for 1 to 2 months. And then like that grew roots, and then we were able to plant it and like just clone the plant, which was super, super cool. Okay, the next slide has a picture of a dissected pig. So if you don't want to see it, or you like get queasy, just like look away for 10 seconds. But in my AP Bio class, we were able to dissect a fetal pig. And honestly, going into it, I was kind of scared because like it's very invasive and you see all the insides, and I wasn't really sure if I was ready for it. But I really found that I was super excited to do it. And it was just so cool to be able to like cut into it, see where everything's connected, see all the organs, and just be able to observe that. So I think during my classes in high school, that's when I really found my interest in biology. Sorry. And that's when like I really found that I wanted to pursue that as in college and as a career. So during high school, I was also involved in a lot of community service that was related to my interest in biology and medicine. And that really allowed me to not only learn more about the field in a classroom setting, but also be able to use that knowledge to help other people. So during high school, I was involved in Red Cross Club and was president for 2 years. And we would host blood drives, toy drives, fundraisers for natural disaster victims, and like, different fundraisers. And that was just a really great way to like give back to the community and help other people. And then I was also able to volunteer at a local hospital where I volunteered in the clinical lab. And I was helping out like sorting biopsy slides, scanning specimens, so like blood and urine samples from hospital patients, and like filing papers. And even though I didn't really use my biology knowledge in those positions, I really got to learn a lot about what it's like to work in a lab. And I got to work alongside a pathologist, a lot of lab technicians, and just be exposed to that environment. So that was really great. And I got to meet a lot of people and kind of get a glimpse also into what working in healthcare is like. And fun fact, I just put that picture on the bottom right, but I've met these YouTubers called the Fung Bros while I was volunteering at my hospital. I don't know, I just thought that was cool, but I don't know how many people know who they are. But yeah. Okay. So after that, last summer of 2019, I was accepted into a program called the Research Mentorship Program at UC Santa Barbara. So that's where I began my research internship. So this program matches high school students to postdoctoral researchers or grad students, or even grad students and some like undergrads, to conduct your own research project throughout 6 weeks. So you have that whole time to either like work in a lab, like do some humanities research. It's like a lot of different fields. And you also get to take 2 UCSB classes where they teach you how to communicate your research. So I got to not only conduct research, but also produce a paper, presentation, and poster. So I conducted research on Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease that causes memory deficiency and loss of cognitive function. So Alzheimer's disease is actually a super common disease. I think it's one of the top causes of death, like that doesn't have any treatment or cure. And not a lot is actually known about the disease, even though it's so common. So it's pretty much like agreed upon and in the scientific community that there are 2 main causes to the disease. So one is the buildup of amyloid beta plaques, as you can see right here, just outside of neurons, and that like clumps together. And then there's also a different protein called tau, and that is what is inside the neuron. And those proteins become misfolded and they tangle together and like clump up inside neurons. And that's been believed, or it's been like connected with the degeneration of the brain. So it's like definitely a cause, or believed to be a cause of Alzheimer's. So I was really interested in the tau protein. And there's this really interesting process called the tau seeding process, where a misfolded tau protein can cause other healthy tau proteins to misfold, and that's how Alzheimer's is believed to be spread. So that process is super interesting, and it's called the tau seeding process, but not a lot has been researched about it. And so I was really interested in that. So how it works really briefly is just there's this misfolded tau protein outside the cell, and it enters a neuron, and then it like whenever it like gets close enough to healthy tau protein, it kind of recruits it and templates its shape onto the other tau. So I was investigating how that process was affected by the addition and removal of a phosphate group. So a phosphate group is kind of just this like group of this like functional group or group of it's like 1 phosphate and 4 oxygens, and it causes like proteins, or it changes the shape of tau, or it's believed to be, or yeah. So then I was trying to see how that affects the tau seeding process and how Alzheimer's is spread. So one really cool technology I got to use in my research was called CRISPR gene knockdown, which is CRISPR interference. So it's not the same as what a lot of people hear about, which is CRISPR gene knockout, which is where like the gene is totally removed or totally like shut down. Gene knockdown is where it's kind of temporarily inhibited, so it's not like a permanent change. And the reason why I used this was because I only had 6 weeks to complete my research project, and this was like a really fast and efficient way to suppress some genes. So how it works is that there's this, let's see, I'll get my pointer, this Cas9 protein, and it's attached to this effector domain. And there's this guide RNA that is connected to the protein, and it basically, this guide RNA guides the protein to the beginning of a gene sequence. So let's say there's like some protein that I wanted to stop being produced in the cell, then I would want my RNA to guide it to the beginning of that sequence. And then once that's there, this effector domain is able to stop the DNA in this section to be read. So that's how the gene is like knocked down. So after all my research and by working on my paper, poster, and presentation, I was able to present at a research symposium at the end of the program, where I got to deliver a 10-minute presentation and summary of my research to 200 UCSB researchers, students, and also parents. And then there was also a poster symposium where I was able to talk more one-on-one with the audience members and get to answer questions and talk more about my research. So just a quick summary, day in the life, kind of what it was like in the summer program. So we were balancing classes, research, and kind of the social activities, since it was residential program. So I would wake up, go to class, and then go to lab for the morning. And like after like being in, after being in lab, I would go to lunch at a dining hall. And then after lunch, I would go back to lab. And then after that, there would be like a workshop for the program or a social activity. And then I'd go back to my dorm, analyze some of the data from the day, keep track and document what I did in lab that day. So in biotech, you want to keep track of every single day what you do. So sometimes people handwrite it. There's this new software called Benchling you can look into, where you document it online and you can like share it with all your coworkers. So there's that. And then I would work on my paper, presentation, and poster, and then it'd all start over again. And then every week I was also able to attend the lab meetings that would happen. And that was just super cool because it was a meeting with everyone in the lab. You got to see the research that everyone's doing. And I just really got to get a glimpse of what it's like to work in a research lab during this program. And it was really cool and really solidified my passion for biology, because I got to kind of get like, I was kind of thrown into this new environment. I was exploring and getting to really investigate something that I was passionate about and that I could do like totally on my own. Okay, so along the same lines, I kind of wanted to share what I learned from the program, how I grew, and kind of how much it impacted my journey so far. So definitely on the technical side, I learned so much. I had a foundation of biotech skills from my biotech classes at school, but in the lab, there are just so many new skills that I gained, from like culturing cells to extracting DNA, to like using some cool machines that I never even heard of before. It was just really cool, and like technically I gained so many skills and data analysis skills, like, and also just presenting research, and these sorts of skills I'm super excited to use like in college and in my future. But in addition to that, I really was able to grow as a person and kind of become more independent, kind of live the life of a researcher for a little bit, and really build connections with people, since like there's this whole program. I had a lab mentor, I had a lab partner on the left, you can see, and it was just super great and a cool community, and I just got to meet and get to know so many people from all across the world. So I super recommend people or high schoolers like you guys to apply and attend summer programs, because my experience was honestly like the highlight of my high school years, because it's just a cool, super fun, but like challenging experience where you can go out of class and really get hands-on experience. So if you're interested, there are a bunch of summer programs that different colleges host. If you just search up random schools, I'm sure they have summer programs that are geared towards high school students. So there's the application period is generally from December to March, and that's when you would fill out an application with personal information, your essays, personal statements, transcripts, extracurriculars, all that jazz. And then you sometimes would have to go through an interview, and then after that, you'll be either accepted or denied. And I just think like going through the whole process is super helpful because it's pretty similar to college applications. So you get that experience, and also you have like the potential opportunity to go to a new environment, new school, and get to conduct research or take classes. It's really up to you, like what you want to do and which summer programs you would want to attend. So some examples are HSP at Michigan State University. Boston University has one called RISE. That's pretty similar to the one I attended. And then there's Cosmos, which is super popular in California. And it's more class-based, but you still conduct research. And there's also the Science Internship Program, or SIP, hosted by UC Santa Cruz. There are just so many, and you can really just Google like high school summer programs for people interested in biology, and you'll get a whole list. And my recommendation is really to just apply, because I know it's really scary, and I almost didn't apply to the program I attended, but just taking like that step to apply, even if you're scared, even if like you don't really know what to do, it's just a really great way for you to go out of your comfort zone and find opportunities that are new for you. So in addition to summer programs, there are definitely a lot more ways you can get involved or pursue your passions in biology. I know that summer programs can be super expensive, and sometimes even the scholarships wouldn't help. So there are definitely a lot of different ways that you can explore your interests. So one way is conducting research, not through a program. You can definitely conduct research either in academia, so at universities, or at companies. So I'd recommend leveraging your connections or reaching out to people that you know, whether that's a parent, a friend, a teacher, or a former professor. Or you can cold email. Cold emailing is like emailing people that you don't know. So that's a really great way. And a lot of high school students just cold email professors at local universities, and they can end up getting positions at their labs to conduct research. And that's like for free too. So when you do cold email, I would say you really need to demonstrate your interest and show that you really want to work at that specific lab. You don't want to send a general email that's like, hi, I'm Anna and I want to do research. It's like, hi, I'm Anna. I want to do research on Alzheimer's disease. I've done research on, or okay, you don't have to say that. I really am passionate about like the brain, and I want to do research on Alzheimer's, and you do research on Alzheimer's. Can we like partner up, kind of something like that? That's really a great way to show that you want to go to that specific lab. And then you also want to communicate your skill set, even if you don't have too many. Whatever you have, it's good to communicate. And then in addition to that, you can also attend competitions or start your own clubs or join clubs. So high schoolers have a lot of opportunities for science fairs. I guess you would have to conduct research before and enter your project into that, but there's like ISEF and like Regeneron, a lot of different science fairs where you can present your research and get awarded for it. And then there are also competitions like Science Olympiad or USABO, which is Bio Olympiad. Highly recommend trying that out. And then there are also many clubs that you could join or you can start where you can pursue your passions in biology or also share your knowledge with other students. And then you can also definitely attend classes. There are like super cool classes at community colleges that you can take, or like special biotech or bio classes if they're available at your school. They're a really great way to kind of hone in on your interests, especially if you take community college classes, because college classes are a lot more specific than high school classes. So you can take a genetics class, a microbiome class, really anything in your that you're interested in. And then lastly, I would recommend volunteering. I've really had the best time volunteering in high school. It's a super great way to both pursue your passions, but also help other people. So you could volunteer at tutoring centers, science museums, hospitals, or animal shelters, or really anywhere that you're interested in. So I just wanted to share some key takeaways, just some advice I'd like to give you guys, or what I've learned so far. My journey definitely has not ended, and there's still a long way for me to go, but I think there's some things that I really learned. So I learned a lot during high school. So one thing is definitely to go out of your comfort zone. I know it's easier said than done, but staying in your comfort zone would not let you grow. And when you go out of your comfort zone and like take that extra step, kind of go into the unknown, that's when you truly grow, and that's when you'll truly find your interests. And I would say, especially for females, to pursue your passions and not let anybody stop you. It's pretty easy in any community, and especially like in STEM, for people to kind of talk you out of doing things or kind of intimidate you, but you really don't want to let other people affect you. And it's easier said than done, I know, but having what you want to do in your head is really helpful to like reach your goals. And then along what Savannah mentioned, building your connections is super important. And I didn't really realize how to do this or like when to do this until recently, to be honest, but that's really crucial. And it's kind of like the whole networking thing, but and it seems like so intimidating, especially for high schoolers, but it's really just like getting to know people, making friends, reaching out to people you're interested in. I'd recommend making a LinkedIn account as a high schooler, just because it's such a great like networking environment. I've really like leveraged it recently, and that's how I kind of got this opportunity to speak to you guys today. So that's really important. Definitely ask questions and don't be afraid to ask for help. Asking questions really demonstrates your interest in something and also allows you to learn more about topics you're interested in. Instead of like being quiet, if you ask questions or like ask for help, then you won't get lost and you'll be able to like grow and get to your full potential. And then lastly, have fun. I mean, really, that's what life is about. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys. I just really want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. Definitely stay in touch. My email's right here, my LinkedIn's there if you'd like to connect, and I'll take any questions now. Okay, I think I can see the chat. Okay. What are good sources to use to help writing applications for programs? Okay, so I would say that looking online for example essays usually helps to get an idea of what you should write. It's definitely hard because it's like you're writing about yourself and you never really do that in school. So it's definitely hard. I think asking for help from previous students. So like older students who maybe attended the programs that you want to attend, just ask them like how they approach their essays, what they did to get there. That's really great. I think the main goal of the application is to like show why like the program wants you. So you really want to stay genuine and think about why you want to go. Like a lot of programs, like they ask why this program, or like why do you want to come to us specifically? And you want to do your research on the program websites and kind of self-reflect, like why do I want to pursue biology? It's really a hard question, but as long as you start early and revise, that will help you in the long run. Okay, how are you able, wait, oh no, I think that's an old question. Yeah. Okay. How is evolution studied in computational biology? That's a good question. I'm majoring in computational biology, but I haven't started college yet. So technically, I haven't taken classes about it yet, or any computational biology classes yet, but evolution can easily be studied in computational biology. Like you can model, well, I guess that's not really evolution. Like there's the S curve of how like populations grow. You can easily model like data from evolution, just like take data about like the evolutionary, like the trees, like showing how species have evolved over time. You can like plug in that data and like write algorithms to produce like models of that. So I think that would be how you could study evolution in computational biology. Computational biology is a really cool field. It's like really interdisciplinary. You can like go a lot of places with that. Any other questions? And is it related to the physical phenomena? What exactly do you mean by that? Physical phenomena. Like, are you saying is computational biology related to physical or physics phenomena? As an involvement of physics and biology. Oh yeah, for sure. Computational biology definitely like involves physics. I don't have the most experience in that, and I'm not sure how much I can really answer, but there's definitely like a lot of physics classes I would need to take, and you could probably combine them in terms of modeling like biophysics phenomena or like concepts like that.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Anna, for your great tips and how to get involved in STEM. And yeah. Oh, I think there's one more question.
What do you plan to do after college? That's a good question. So in college, I'm definitely going to explore different careers. So at first I thought I was going to go to medical school, and I'm still like pre-med. So I'll be taking all the required courses to go to medical school, but I'm considering various career paths. So I might go into research, and I might go into software engineering. I'm not completely sure yet, but college is definitely the time to explore.
Okay, so thank you so much again. I think it's time for our last speaker.
Okay, our last speaker is Dr. Lowry, and she's a professor of biology at the University of San Diego.
Hello, I'm going to share my screen too. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my, and please just stop me anytime if you have questions. I was born in Mississippi, and I'm a first-generation college student. So I'm from a really big extended family with lots and lots of aunts and uncles, and myself and the other cousins my age, we were all the first that had a chance to go to college. So it was really interesting that, you know, I was excited about everything, but particularly about science. So I graduated with a BS in zoology from Mississippi State University. And after I graduated from college, I worked at the University of Mississippi Medical Center as a research assistant for 3 years. And there I got to do a lot of really exciting things. I learned a lot about biochemical genetic disorders, and I did some work in that area. My primary work was with platelet aggregation, and I was looking at it from the biochemical side. And after several years, I decided that, being a research assistant was a really great opportunity. I learned, they taught me how to do a lot of different types of techniques. I learned to use a lot of different instruments. And in fact, the research that I was working on in platelets is one of the reasons why I ended up in the PhD program that I did, which will seem surprising when you hear what I did for a PhD. but I was looking at how calcium ion movements across the membrane of the platelets triggered their coagulation and their blood clotting. And then I ended up, my first project in graduate school was looking at silicon metabolism in diatoms, because when I decided that I wanted to go to graduate school, I decided that I'd pursue an interest that I'd always had in marine biology. So I moved to California and worked on my PhD at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. And after that, I did several postdocs and then ended up as a professor at the University of San Diego. So I liked San Diego so much, I never really left. Having the PhD project at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, so I'm a little bit different from some of the pathways that are possible, and people asked questions about this before. My research assistant work gave me a lot of the same kind of skill sets that a master's program would have done. I was able to design the experiments, to do the background reading. I was able to present the results of my experiments at scientific conferences, and I was an author on papers. So I got to do a lot of the things that you might normally get trained when you were in a master's program, but I got paid while I did it. So that was a bonus. And when I came to Scripps, Scripps was an amazing place, and I got to do a lot of exploration that was really exciting to me as a person who was from a small town in a fairly rural area, coming from a family whose background was fairly rural. So it was really exciting to me. I got to go on research cruises, and probably one of the most exciting things that I got to do was to take a dive in the Alvin submersible, research submersible. So I went to the bottom of the Catalina Basin where it was 1,200 meters. And one of the things that we do when we deploy instruments at great depth is we'll put in these coffee cups, like these styrofoam coffee cups. And the pressure, once you go into the deep, compresses the cup. And so here you can see in the middle is the cup that I took, or I sent to 400 meters of depth on an instrument. And then here's the cup that went with me in the Alvin. And it was in the research instrument basket on the outside. I was protected from the pressure, but outside you can see how small my cup got with the pressure there. And partly I put this in to say that working on a PhD is a very stressful environment. There's a lot of pressure, but there's also a lot of connections that you can make that are really helpful. Your research advisors, the connections that you make with other grad students are all the sort of things that help you to get through these periods. I know that I started on several different projects, and many of them didn't pan out, which is the way research works, is you have an idea, you test it, and then sometimes you find that the results come easily, and sometimes they don't come so easily. So I was lucky to pursue several different avenues before I landed on the one that was the most successful for me and gave me the final work that I used to complete my PhD. And I continued to do that work throughout. Interestingly, all the way along from the papers that I wrote in college through the work that I did as a research assistant, projects that I did in graduate school, and even projects that I'm working on now, there is some connection with metabolism. And so that was something that I would never have imagined that I would be pursuing for so many years in so many different forms, but it still comes back to something that interests me even now. The other great opportunity for being in science, and some of the other speakers have mentioned this, is that when you present your work, you're often working in international teams, or you have the opportunity. I went to Barcelona in this particular picture to present work at a Fit Fish conference where we were talking about our work with high-speed swimming fish. Now, as the professor of biology at the University of San Diego, I do some of the same things that Dr. Ackerman did, but I also have a little bit different focus because the University of San Diego is a liberal arts university. And there, all of my research colleagues are primarily undergraduates, and also the other professors there. So I spend a lot of time working with undergraduates in the lab and on projects. And so here you can see some of our research cruises that we've taken for the oceanography classes, where we're processing samples on the ship, and here we're processing some samples there. This is probably the most exciting part of my job and one of the most satisfying, as I love working with the students, especially on the ship, but also I like working with them in the laboratories. Most of the time, of course, I'm in a classroom or in a teaching laboratory, and sometimes in my own research laboratory as well. And I'm currently the chair of the biology department, so I spend an inordinate amount of time on paperwork, which is much less exciting but necessary to keep all of the things moving along. And I also wanted to just put a plug in there about staying open to the sort of opportunities that come along and things that aren't on your main training pathway. When I was going through working in the lab and developing my teaching, I never imagined that one day I would be the faculty shepherd as we built a brand new science center at the University of San Diego. So this was a great opportunity. I worked with the scientists in all of the departments that went into this building, the physicists, the chemists, the environmental scientists. I also worked with the construction company. So I was the person on the ground in the building every week with my hard hat, walking through to see that the plans that we needed had not been inadvertently adjusted, and so that something that was important for the laboratories would have been left out. I got to know my colleagues really well and to learn a lot more about their teaching in different disciplines, and that was really helpful as I went forward, and it was one of the most satisfying things that I've ever done. So just to talk a little bit about my lab, the things that I'm interested in, and the little cartoon up in the corner might give you an insight into this, is I'm really interested in how high velocity exercise training affects the swimming performance and the growth of juvenile fish. I've had a long-standing interest in muscle physiology and especially changes in mass that are in response to exercise. When I was 15, I was in a car accident and broke my knee and had to have part of my kneecap removed. And while I was in a splint, I failed to do the exercises appropriately. So when they took off the splint 2 weeks later, all of my muscle mass had atrophied and I couldn't even flex my knee. So after having electrotherapy in order to flex my knee artificially so that I could develop the muscles and go back, that was my first sort of interest in how muscle is adaptable. And it was something that I ended up following up in graduate school with fish, particularly interested in episodic feeding and deep sea fish. And then now I'm applying it to, can we use this exercise to improve the growth of fish that we're growing in aquaculture? And so we're exploring and primarily I'm interested in the physiological mechanisms that are related to this enhanced growth. The two species that we've been primarily using are cultured at the Hub's SeaWorld Research Institute, and they include California yellowtail. The adults are on the bottom, and then the juveniles you can see up at the top, and white sea bass, which is being reared for release into the wild. So it's very important that these fish are healthy and able to swim really fast because they have to catch their own food and they also have to escape predators once they're released into the wild. The way that we do this, and I do this all with my undergraduate research assistants and peers, and then also with occasional master's students that are working on this in our environmental science program. We set up these raceways where we had flow regimes where the current was fast, moderate, or slow, as determined by how fast the individual species of fish could swim. So imagine for just a moment that you're thinking about the fastest that people can run and how long that they can keep that up. So think about a really good marathon runner where they have high velocity and they can keep that up for hours at a time. Now imagine we determined what the maximum swim speed was for our fish, and then we backed off a little bit. And so we had fish that were swimming at 60% of their maximum aerobic capacity, and we were rearing them this way. So in other words, they lived in this flow regime 24 hours a day for up to a month. in our experiments. And then we looked to see how it affected the growth rate and also how it affected some gene expression and the physiology of muscles. And here's one of our more recent experiments that we've housed at the Southwest Fisheries Science Center, where we have yellowtail swimming in these raceways. And we really, in this particular experiment, we're interested in how long does this enhanced growth rate last once you take them out of this high performance environment and then you put them back into a regular tank where they swim at whatever speed they want to, and they don't really have the need to be swimming as fast as our flume would make them swim. Sadly, we determined that even though we could accelerate their growth rate and they would gain weight faster and they would grow faster, once, just like us, once they stop the exercise, their growth rate would start to trail back to what it was originally. So the acceleration of the growth rate, we found we could stimulate for over a month. But if you want to keep them growing fast, you have to keep stimulating them every once in a while to swim really fast. So the other thing that I'm really passionate about, in addition to science, is working on outreach. And so I've been really involved for all of my professional life with outreach to middle school and high school girls, and through 2 different programs. One of those is BeWise. Some of you may even be in this program, where we recruit young women in 7th and 8th grade, and then we have follow-on programs for them until they graduate from high school. And then a related program, Expanding Your Horizons, which is more of a short-term opportunity, where we bring in girls from all over San Diego County, from as far away as Alpine and other places, to come to USD mostly and do a 1-day conference where they get a chance to do hands-on activities in science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. And we have girls that participate in this program. And then sometimes we had one volunteer who had participated in this program because it's a national program. As a high school student, she then was a mentor, a chaperone during college. And then she came back and she was working with us as the scientist who was presenting the opportunities. So I've been really interested in how do we expand opportunities for young women, and then also how do we expand those opportunities at upper levels when you might be moving into later in your career when you start to take on leadership roles. So I'm going to stop my talk since we're running out of time and take some questions. And I'm happy to talk about all of these different levels. And I think that the speakers that have come before me had great advice. And I think that the news is anytime that you're find an interest is to find a way to get involved in it. And then you never know where that interest is going to take you. Sometimes it takes you in a very different direction. And sometimes you're able to follow a fairly linear approach. But there's a lot of joy to be found in those nonlinear pathways through life. Do you have any questions? So what was it like defending my thesis? Oh, it was really exciting. My mother, who didn't finish high school, came out and listened to me defend my thesis. She said she didn't know anything about what I was talking about, but she was so proud of me that day that she got to see me defend the thesis. A funny story about that was I had practiced the thesis delivery quite a bit, and I had notes. And then after my PhD advisor introduced me, he went down to his seat and he unfortunately took all my notes with him. So I was standing up there and I realized I had no notes, and but there were like 70 or 80 people in the audience. And so I couldn't let on that I didn't have my notes with me. So I just sort of winged it, and good preparation really helped me out. And I must say that that got me over fear of talking in front of people, because after that, I don't think anything bothered me at all. How did I start my lab? Oh, well, when you take on a new job, usually the university, and depending on what kind of a university that you go to or research facility that you go to, new professors usually get some sort of a startup fund so that they can buy some equipment to get their labs started. So if you're at a liberal arts university, it might be smaller than if you were at UCSD. It would be a much larger pool of money. And so this helps you to set up the new lab, and people are really generous usually with sharing equipment as well. For some of the equipment that I needed, my university did not have that, and so I would band together with other professors and write grants in order to get the equipment that we needed. And then I also made collaborations. So for instance, the first few years when I was doing research at USD, I was capturing my fish live from Mission Bay. And then I made a connection with the Hub SeaWorld Research Institute, where they had an aquaculture facility and they were growing these juvenile fishes. And this was much better from a research perspective because it allowed me to have a large number of fish that were all the same age and they were all under the same treatment. So you make connections, you assemble the instrumentation that you need, and you start to recruit students who will come in and work with you. So I've been lucky to meet students I teach a lot of freshman classes. So I'm lucky that I get to meet students when they're just starting out in college, and I can ask them to come and work with me in the lab. Some students are interested in fish, so they'll seek me out because they're interested in working with me. And I really do enjoy working with those students. So maybe, so I'm one of those professors where people have cold called me, and I have had some students from outside the university. I've had several high school students that have worked with me. And so that is something that is possible. Give it a try. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Lowry, for joining us today.
So there's another question in the chat about where people can find opportunities. So very much like what Anna said, if you look on some local universities or local biotechs, they often will have programs advertised and you can apply for those. We have a special program where students who are accepted to USD can come and work with professors the summer before they start college. And I think a lot of universities have opportunities like that. So there's a question in the chat about what STEM area is good for someone who's not good at math. I would like to instead turn that around and say, I think that everybody can be better at math. Math is one of those things that you can actually work on and learn. And, but there is a different level of math involved in several different types of fields. And so I think that, as you're going through and trying different disciplines, you can see which ones are there, but I would highly recommend that you try to push yourself to practice math and get better at it, because that's something that's really accessible for a lot of people.
Okay, thank you. And okay.
Oh, I think there's one more question actually.
Oh, okay. Um, it looks like Dr. Lowry left the conversation. So would Anna or Celine like to answer some of these questions?
Hi, I can answer the question about COVID. So Alex asked, now we can't do hands-on science because of COVID. Do you have any suggestion for now? So it's definitely difficult, like being interested in biology and in the current situation. I know a bunch of like grad students and like professors can't even go to their labs right now, but there are definitely a lot of resources. So something that is challenging, but can definitely help expand your interest or like help you pursue your passions in biology is looking up like scientific journals or like papers online. There are a bunch of like ones that are just like really accessible online, and if you challenge yourself to like read over them, I think especially in topics that you're interested in, like you can really challenge yourself and get more involved and prepared for research. There's also like computational biology opportunities still. I believe there are a lot of people who are cold emailing professors still and asking to work remotely, so that's an option too.
Yeah, I can jump in and answer the COVID too. For my lab, we actually shut down for about 4 months. So we barely could do any hands-on science research. But one of the big things that you can do during the COVID time at home is really, like what Anna said, is look up like programs that you can take online. Like for me, I know because my project is, it requires sequencing and being able to analyze those, I had to learn a lot of R on my own. So during the 4 months, going on Code Academy to learn coding, that's a really important skill that you can do during COVID. And when your lab comes back or when schools reopen, you can start using those skills that you learned during COVID. So it's not just like computational skills. There's a lot of conferences now that are online during COVID. So if you're interested in science and you can't do hands-on work, maybe you can participate in those conferences and see what kind of science people have done and sort of think about, what you want to do when lab opens or have ideas so that when school restarts, you kind of can have a jump on it. That's a lot of what we do during the COVID time.
Okay, thank you guys.
So once again, you guys can sign up for the other Girls Science Nights. Go to bit.ly/Girls Science Night. And I'll go ahead and put that in chat as well, so it's more convenient.
This event was also hosted with CCA She's the First, and if you want to learn more about us, we support women's gender equality through supporting women's education, and the website is going to be in the chat box as well. And we're also hosting a women's leadership panel, so in case anyone wanted to join that, you can sign up on the website as well. Thank you for coming, and thank you to all of our amazing speakers for volunteering their valuable time today. I feel very inspired and I learned a lot from this talk today. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys for coming.